What's up, everyone? Alex Rossman here, and welcome to Rossman Radio, the social first podcast where founders and industry leaders stop pretending everything's amazing and they tell the real stories, the wins, the failures, the why did I even start this moments, all of it. Most importantly, we break down the marketing strategies that are actually working for them today, not the ones some guru made up in a hotel conference room in 2016. So if you want real-world growth strategies told by the ones who have scaled multi-million-dollar brands, just listen.
Welcome back to Rossman Radio. I'm here with Sharon Lechter. She's a 5-time New York bestseller and advised 2 U.S. presidents. And on top of that, has built and exited global brands, including the Rich Dad Company. So we've got a lot to talk about in 15 minutes here, but welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be with you, Alysse.
Likewise. So I want to just dive right into it because you're such a force to be reckoned with. And I'm sure you've been told that more times than not. But what really intrigues me and fascinates me the most about your journey is how many different industries you've been able to not just jump into and build, a career out of, but also done a really good job. It's not like you just kind of dabbled in things that you did. So what was like the biggest, maybe saying what was the biggest is not the right way to put it, but what was a big influence for you kind of every step of the way in giving us like your elevator pitch, I guess, so to speak, of how you chose which avenue to go through?
Well, I teach, successful businesses do one of two things: solve a problem or serve a need. So I'm constantly looking for things that can fill that gap where there's a need in an industry, or when I realized kids didn't like to read, I joined forces with the inventor of the first talking children's book, and we built that around the world. And that was back in the 80s, late 80s. Before that, I started a women's magazine, and we were incredibly successful through direct mail campaigns. So each industry that I touch, you have to look at where we are, what's available to us, and how can we best utilize it. After the Talking Children's book, a few years later, I started the Rich Dad Company. And this was before Amazon, before the internet. So throughout my career, I teach the power of association and the importance of having the right partners. So for instance, when we started the Talking Children's book in 1987, kids did not have electronics. They didn't have screens. I know it's hard to imagine, but dinosaur days. And so we said, how can we get parents to trust us? We've got this gadget. And so we did partnerships with little companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, Marvel Comics, and parents trusted those brands. So then they trusted us, and we were able to explode around the world by doing that. That has never changed. Power of association was how we started our company back then. Every company I've run, I've used power of association, and it's alive and well today. The tactics along the way, of course, changed because we didn't have the internet, we didn't have Amazon, we had to do direct mail, we had to do in-person webinars because we couldn't do online webinars. And so we had to have people help us and share with their connections to help spread the word.
Yeah, that's crazy because I feel like now businesses don't really understand the grit and just like the sheer discipline that it took to really build something in, the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. You were really around for the rise of Abraham Hicks and Dr. Wayne Dyer, all these powerful authors and thought leaders that really went on to kind of pioneer the personal development space. Even Tony Robbins, I feel like you got to see all these different, we call them gurus, right? Come to rise. But I will say, if you follow a lot of, these people, they all have something in common. And it's exactly what you just said. So it's interesting to hear that the one principle that has carried you through all of these different avenues is the one principle that still stays strong today, which really proves that you can evolve, and the internet can evolve, and marketing can evolve, but you really just need to stay true to your core competencies. which you've outlined here. So which is interesting. So when the internet did finally make its grand appearance, well, gosh, I have so many questions, but I'll start with, what was it like going from traditional, word of mouth, in-person meetings, in-person, speaking events, things like that, to like, wow, like I can reach more people with an ad online. Like, what was that transition like, and how do you think that impacted your different adventures here?
Well, it's a great question, because I think as a CEO and a leader of a company, you have to stay at the front of the curve. And the way I do that is to make sure I have 20-year-olds working for me, right? So making sure you've got the latest technology and you're testing it. This success is all about test. Make sure it's successful. Make sure your messaging is right, because the messaging on one platform may not be the right messaging on another. And of course, you look at social media today, same thing. And so it's really important not to get comfortable in the way you're doing things, because as soon as you get comfortable in the way you're doing things, you're going to probably get passed by young, more aggressive companies that are on the cutting edge. So it's very important, no matter what your message is, to make sure that you are reaching the right audience, how and when they want to be reached, because that has changed as well. It's not just the method, but what your consumer, what your customer wants. Today it's very short YouTubes, not the 2-hour YouTube. So it's like, you've got to pay attention. You got to know what your audience is looking for, to make sure you're giving them what they want, when they want it, how they want it. And I think, the evolution of marketing has changed dramatically. In the last 6 months, it's changed. 3 years ago, Facebook ads was the rave. Everybody was doing it. Today, fewer people are doing that because it's not as effective. Algorithms have changed. They're not getting the same ROI. And that's the other thing, understanding your data, your metrics. A lot of people threw a lot of money without really paying attention to what the results were. And that's something that, no matter what method you're using, make it measurable. Understand the metrics and understand what your market is. If your market is baby boomers, you're probably not going to go totally digital, because they may want to see it in an email. There was a time when I was building Rich Dad that we'd get orders overnight on a fax machine, right? Well, that doesn't happen anymore. Nobody has a fax machine. So it's a matter of staying on top of what's happening in the industry, and not necessarily trying to learn it all on your own. That's why I say I hire 20-year-olds, people who are experts and on the cutting edge, to get their advice, their guidance, and their input on making sure your messaging is appropriate for your market today.
Yeah, can I just have you on my calls with potential people that are looking to do marketing with us? Because that's literally like the hardest thing to explain to people, because we're an agency. We are very good at making content go viral. We produce everything in-house. And one thing that we try to explain to people that want to work with us is you kind of have to slow down, because this is not a set it, forget it engine anymore. You have to, like you said, pay attention to what your buyers are doing. And here's the thing, we work with Saks Fifth Avenue. Well, that buyer is going to be very different and going to relate to very different content than one of our other clients, like Airbnb, So it's something where you have to really, like you said, dive into the data. And sometimes business owners are very nope, get the results right now. I don't care what you do, just put the ad up. And we're like, no, you can't do that anymore. We'll get the results, but this is how you have to do it. We have to test. So you nailed it, honestly. And it's great, because I do feel like it has changed from long form content to short. I feel like what had changed that really was TikTok, and then every platform followed. And I think now TikTok's trying to move more towards long form by incentivizing their creators to post 10-minute or 5-minute videos. They get paid more if they do. And it's just not sticking. YouTube has been the tried and true platform for long form content, but even there, people really do go to YouTube, which I'm sure to educate. That's educate or learn something. That's what they're there for. And I feel like they had to really kind of roll with it and become like these short form videos. But now it's like, okay, now we're getting a lot of people, but back in the day, they were getting people to watch like hour-long videos consecutively, which is where they make more money. So definitely interesting take. And yeah, working with 20-year-olds, I will say working with 35-year-olds is also great too. But what I will say is I think that's very smart, and it kind of plays off of like your law of association where you're keeping people, because we're big at the agency on that too. We do believe that we don't want our people to like learn every single trade or every single digital marketing aspect. We want them to hone in on what they're good at and focus on their zone of genius. And when you allow people to do that, they do good work. But what you said is, you might not necessarily know the ins and outs of how to publish an ad and look at the conversion rate of it and just really understand the data. Maybe you do, who knows? Most people that own businesses don't. But you understand the value of them and you know kind of what you should be doing. And then you're able to delegate that task, which keeps you free doing what you're good at. So that's awesome. We also believe in that same principle. And I think it's important. And I think for you, in a world where marketing is constantly changing, what would you say are like the platforms that you're really, really into and like comfortable with? And which platforms do you feel like you'd like to see more of your brand in 2026?
Well, that's a great question. One of the areas that I have not utilized in the past is TikTok, and I've got my team looking at it now just simply because of the political environment. But I'm pretty strong on Instagram, Facebook, as well as YouTube I have a podcast, so we're all over on our podcast platform, and LinkedIn. I've got one of the things we're looking at now is actually trying to work more on the LinkedIn side of things for my messaging. But I think in the world in the field that I'm in, I want to elevate the financial well-being of humanity. So again, I need to be where people are. And if they're looking for help financially, I need to be there and come up in their search. So that's a core principle of what I'm doing is how can I get to where they want? Because I'm looking for helping people in a very affordable way to help them find the tools and resources they need to take control of their financial lives.
Do you feel like that landed on your lap, or is it something that you've just been really passionate about from the very beginning? Obviously, children's books and personal finances are very different.
Well, I was very fortunate to be raised by parents who we talked about money at the dinner table. So we talked about assets, liabilities, cash flow. Yeah. And it wasn't until I got out into the real world that I realized nobody else does. I was one of the very few people that understood money. But it wasn't really until my oldest son went off to college and got into credit card debt his first semester. And that was December of 1992. And that's when I dedicated the rest of my life, the rest of my professional life to financial education, because I knew that I understood and I had the ability to help people understand in a very, simple format. I could take a complex subject and explain it in an easy, understandable format to help people take control of their financial lives. And my passion about that is as strong today as it was in December of 92.
Wow. Where's that son today? Is he crushing it with his?
He is. It took him a long time to get out of debt. We wouldn't bail him out, but he's very successful today, and he's in his 50s. I have a hard time believing that, but yes. So
I have a hard time believing that my daughter's turning 2, so I really can't. Wow, that is such a relatable story, because I can literally name 5 friends that, including myself, that have done that exact same thing. And what's crazy is when it comes to finances, you either were brought up talking about it or you weren't, is what I have found. And I've, dated guys before I got married, and I learned that like the male mentality, and maybe it's not just guys, okay, I'm not trying to get into like a males versus females thing, but I will say is like of these guys that I've had like intimate relationships with, I have found that they view money like monopoly money, or like signing up for a credit card and like payment dates are just optional. And like, it's one of those things where I've had to have many of these conversations myself where like, okay, this is a bill. We've got to pay it on time. in order to get other things that we want in life, like homes and assets that will continue to make us money and build legacy. So
it's a huge issue, and it's still, the vast majority of people don't get it. They're chasing salary, they're chasing income. And I go, let's stop chasing income. Let's start building, buying, and creating income producing assets. So you get the asset first, and that income continues going on forever. And that's the mentality shift that I'm trying to get people to make and understand that, there's only so many hours in the day, only so many days in the week. And if you're exchanging time for money, you're not going to get ahead very quickly. And so let's invest in assets, income producing assets, real estate, paper assets, intellectual property, creating programs, writing books. Those are the kinds of things that keep on giving. They become economic engines for you. And that's what I teach. I talk assets are sexy. That's my tagline, and I'm sticking with it. So
they are. They really are, honestly.
And the older you get, the sexier they become.
I bet. With our last couple minutes here, like, what would you say in the personal development space here, in finance space, however you want to coin it? I view caring about your finances as a way to grow consistently and be in personal development. What would you say are some of the coolest leaders that you've gotten to work with? And also, what do you think about these gurus that will claim that they're fixes, buy my $20,000 to $30,000 program and it's going to make you a millionaire overnight?
Well, I have a new book coming out in January. It's called Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth. And in it, I'm going to redefining people's concepts about what wealth is. Old wealth is the old, slow and steady, right? Very traditional. There's nothing wrong with it, but the old, stock it away, save for a rainy day, and systematic savings. And then new wealth is what you're talking about, like these internet get quick schemes, very fast earning money. And there's a place for that. But true wealth is understanding the buying, building, creating assets, understanding the combination of old wealth, new wealth, and true wealth. And the fact that true wealth is really getting your time back, having those assets work for you so that you have the ability to choose the way you live. You have the ability to spend more time with your family. You have the ability to give back and contribute to society. And so that's really the concept that I want to teach people, that it's not just chasing after the money. I have a lot of very rich friends who've lost their family along the way. They've lost their friends because they were focused on the money and not on the quality of their life. And that's what I want people to wake up to, that is, it's really, how are you living? And that's one of the things, the younger generation, they are demanding quality of life. And I think it's kind of refreshing to see that it's not just the money they're chasing. They want to have a life that they can enjoy living.
Yeah, it's the best. So this is the biggest disconnect between my parents and myself when it comes to my career. They don't understand this side, because they're very much like, no, you need to work your way up. You need to get in the corporate game. You need salary. And I'm like, no, I want to get in somewhere where I can work, where there's a lot of upside, no matter if I grind more, I get more upside. And I want freedom. I want the ability to work wherever I want, to be able to take time to spend with my family. I want to play now while I work. I don't want to wait till I'm 65 or 70 to then start playing. That does not make sense to me. And as a result, it's built this engine of success because I'm happier.
That's right. And there's nothing like it. And that's something that we want to highlight in this new book, as far as making those choices that allow you to have the family, allow you to be home for dinner if you choose to, allow you to do the things you want to when you want to, without sacrificing financial success. So,
well, I'm excited to pick up your book in January. What date is it coming out? Do you guys have a launch date?
January 23rd, and it's called Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth.
All right. Well, that's up my alley, as I'm sure it is many of the entrepreneurs that are listening. Sharon, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate your wisdom, and I'm excited to see what you have to say next.
Well, thank you, Alysse. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Likewise.